Okay, so good day everyone. So we will be discussing first the overview of Python. Okay, so if you are wondering why we shifted our course from Java to Python, kindly read na lang dito sa ato ang Google Classroom. Okay, so I have cited there the reason. But one of the more important reason there is it's much easier to learn. Okay, so we'll be discussing an overview. Okay, so how we did some programming concepts in Java. We're going to somewhat convert that, but it's not really a drastic change. Okay, so na mga wala, but it's for the better since when we are learning Python, okay, we are more focused actually on the logic, less on the syntax. Okay, but still there are rules to be followed, so we'll be discussing that later. So constants, okay, again, constants, these are fixed values such as numbers, letters, strings. Okay, these are constants. Okay, so numeric constants are as you expect. Okay, so these are numbers in which fixed ang ilahang value. Okay, now string constant use single quotes or double quotes. Okay, so we'll just create a program later in which we could combine this aspect in Python. Okay, para dili kayo ta malangay sa ato ang pag-discuss in which we always create alt tab. Okay, mag alt tab ta para ipakita. Anyway, okay, that's that. Now, reserved words as similar to our Java programming language, or in programming in general, there are really reserved words in which these are specific words in which you could not use that differs from its original purpose. Okay, so as you can see, these are all the reserved words in Python. Okay, so actually gamay ra. Okay, gamay ra kayo. Okay, this is the reason why Python is easier to study or to learn, kay you're not really focused on maintaining the syntax, okay, or keeping up with the structure, but more on the logic of your program. So variable, again, see, these are used to hold a value. Now, programmers get to choose the names of variables, diba? But remember, you should not name that with any of the reserved words. Okay, so the same concept of what a variable is. Its content could vary at any point of the program, be it part of a calculation or you are providing a value through user input. Okay, so as you get to see here, okay, mag-update ang iyang value sa x. Okay, so dili lang kaya nako ni i-discuss yung ayo. Okay, I will just citing the main differences. Okay, so Python variable name rules. So it must start with a letter or underscore. Okay, it must consist of numbers and underscores. Okay, and it is case sensitive. Okay, more or less similar, diba, sa tong Java. So here are good examples. Okay, and these are bad examples. So kana, and these three words here, even though they are spelled the same, so lahi ng treatment. Okay, similar to how Java treated it. So sa Python lahi pod ang treatment sa different cases. So mnemonic variable names, again, when you are going, you are free to name a variable sa inyong program. Okay, as long as it doesn't follow, or it doesn't it's not equivalent to any of the reserved word, but it should be mnemonic. Okay, buot pasabot ani is it's easier to remember and it is used to serve its purpose. Okay, so since we programmers are given a choice in how we choose our variable names, there's a bit of a best practice. So ang best practice is mo natong tumanon whenever we're going to create a variable, let's say in this case a variable name, even though wala gina sa giingon nga balaod yun, but it's a practice. So we name variables to help us remember what we intend to store in them. Okay, so mnemonic stands for memory aid. Now, this can confuse beginnings student because well-named variables often sound so good that they must be keywords. So, mao ni murag it takes trial and error, and it really takes experience pod. Kay you could not just be confident nga kanang inyong word is not a reserved word. Okay, if you're going to use that, and you might be wondering ano na error in yung program, so ingana. Okay, so with this, let's say these are variables actually in Python, so you could readily write this in your code without an error. Okay, so this is a bit confusing. Okay, so what kabalo unsa ni nga variable, unsa ni nga value, unsay purpose ani, why is it printing this? So a much better way is ingani. Okay, even though we are just using letters, but we get to see it's much more comprehensible. Okay, it's easier to comprehend that A and B, these are different values in which you are going to use that later to store the result of a multiplication to another variable. Then ultimately we're going to print that. Okay, so this is much more helpful. Okay, especially if you're going to create an actual program which utilizes real-world examples. Okay, so let's say given an hours equal to 35.0 and the rate, we get to compute the pay for that by multiplying hours by rate. Then we get to see what the result of the computation is by printing that. Okay, so you can see print mubo ra kaayo sa ato ang Python. Okay, so statements. Okay, so statements, again, these are lines of code, okay, in your program. So sentences or lines. So this is a statement, this is another statement. Okay, so of course this is assignment statement. You are assigning the value of 2 to variable x. Here you are performing. Okay, this is an assignment with expression. So this is an expression. An expression is like a computation, okay, or an operation in your program. So this is a print statement. Now along this lecture slides, you might notice colors. Okay, here, okay, it's an aid. Okay, it's a visual aid to help you identify what part of a program is that. So yellow, okay, or this color, okay, is to a variable. So as you can see, x here is colored similarly. Operators are colored white. So as you could see, plus, equal sign, white. Constant, okay, this somewhat light blue. Then function, another shade of yellow. So kaning print. So assignment statements, we assign a value to a variable using the assignment statement equal sign. So the usual, it's the same. So the order of operation is virtually the same in how we treat that in Java. So an assignment statement consists of an expression on the right-hand side. Okay, so this is the expression of the right-hand side and the variable to store the result. Again, in case you forgot, equal sign is used as an assignment here. Okay, it's not used to indicate equality. Even though in essence you might say that the value here is the same here, but what really happens is the result of this computation is being stored, is being assigned through this equal sign value to this variable x. So manay both pasabot ana. So a variable is a memory location. Okay, similar in a way we treat that in Java. So parehas ra na sila. So the right side is an expression. Once the expression is evaluated, it is assigned to x. Okay, so this is just a step-by-step procedure on how our variable is being updated. So in this example, okay, ang first, okay, the value of x is first determined by performing this computation. Okay, so we have 0.6 here. Okay, initially we have 0.6. Okay, so ang x dire, okay, in this first operation of this statement, it has a value of 0.6. Okay, that's why it's showing here the values of 0.6 is substituted to these variables here. Okay, so once that is being computed, we arrive with this variable. Again, you follow the order of operation katong MDAS or PEMDAS. So gina-follow yapon to siya dire. Okay, so ultimately we have our 0.936. Then whatever value that is being stored here initially will be overwritten by this value. That is why nagpakita na siya dire og ingana. Okay, so before we proceed to that, so let's just dive into our Python nga interface. Okay, now reading your first responses sa inyong first assignment, okay, some have trouble using this and some wanted to know an a locally available program or Python nga interpreter. So again, I have posted that in your classroom. You could search that in YouTube. Okay, so and how to, so it's very easy. It's just a series of steps like downloading that from the internet, then installing, then clicking certain checkboxes. Okay, then you get to install your Python. Okay, but for the rest, okay, I suggest you use this para mag-coincide lang pod ang ato ang discussion. Okay, but I really do suggest you to try this in your local computer. But since naiubad nga cellphone lang gamit, tablet lang gamit, there's no real wala sila access sa computer, so pwede ra gihapon you could still program Python using this interpreter. Okay, so how do we create? Okay, let's say we're going to create our first programming language, hello world program. Okay, so our goal is to print the word hello world. So it's very easy. It consists only of one line of code. We simply write print, close and open parenthesis, then hello world. So that's it. Okay, so wala na tong sa Java nga public static void main kay napatong class. Okay, I'm not telling you that Java is bad, but what I'm showing you here is Python is much easier. Okay, in your case, that if you want to learn programming in a very fast manner, given that in our scenario now dili gyud ingon nga magahinan gyud og oras ang pagtuon sa program. Okay, so kana every programming language has its advantage and disadvantages and usage and purposes. Okay, so we could not really undermine another programming language. Okay, depende ra gyud na kung unsa inyong use case. But going back to our discussion, okay, our demonstration, so once we have this written, okay, we could simply click execute. Again, this is very similar to your JDoodle nga Java interpreter, but this is for Python. Okay, so if you're going again, please visit tong ato ang classroom na dito ang link. Okay, or you could check if maklaro ninyo na, okay, you can type that. So let's just change our interface here. Kana. Okay, let's close this. Okay, so clicking on execute. Okay, as you could see, it's working. It's fully working. So that is our first hello world program using the Python programming language. So dali ra kaayo, di ba? Kana. So expressions. Now, because of the lack of mathematical symbols on computer keyboards, we use computer speak to express the classic math operations. Okay, most of these operations are the same with what we have used in Java. Okay, katong plus, minus, asterisk, forward slash, okay, remainder. Okay, but in additionally, we have here an operator for power. Di ba sa Java kay magmat.pow pamanta, but here we simply need to use the asterisk twice. Okay, so asterisk is multiplication. Okay, again, it's not x. Okay, it's not dot, so asterisk. Okay, so numeric expressions. Okay, so let's dive into our interpreter. Okay? So let's say we want to perform the 4 basic operations in Python. Okay? So, to start, we are going to, okay, maggamit na tag variables ha. Okay? Since you are not really that beginner enough, tinaway nga dili pa makabalon silang variables. Sa ato alang karon is nag-change ta og programming language. But, okay, if you want to use variables in Python, you could immediately use write a statement that you are assigning a value to it. Okay, so let's say x. Okay, so x is equals to 1, y is equals to 2. Okay, then if you want to perform a calculation for this, let's say z or sum is equals to x plus y. Notice I am not, okay, di ba? Daghang kay nawala. You might be wondering, sir, naman to mga semicolon, mga curly braces. Okay, we are no longer using that here in Python. So ingani ka, somewhat more straightforward, okay, atong programming sa Python. Okay, so if we're going to print our sum, okay, so execute. Okay, we get to see 3 here. Okay, so let's say you want to write something like the sum of, okay, x and y is sum. Kana. So let's execute. Oh, the sum, you cannot, okay, so this is one of, okay, siguro medyo off topic lang, but since I have already shown you this in our program, okay, you'll notice that Python, okay, there's really no declaration part. Ang ginahimo sa Python is sa iyahang program, kung unsa inyong gi-assign nga value, it is smart enough to know what type that is. Okay? So automatically iyang i-assign ang data type kung unsa ang gibutang dere. Since 1 and 2, these are actually integer values, okay? Once you have done this in your Python code, okay, x will automatically have a data type of integer. Okay? Now what happened here, it causes an error. Okay, you can only concatenate string, not int to string. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is not a string. Okay, plus is also used the same way as a concatenator in Python as to Java. Okay, but ang kakahitabo dere is you are trying to concatenate, let's say this is a string, then i-plus nimo, okay, plus this is actually an int value, then a string, okay, then an int, then string plus int. Okay, so dili siya musugot ana. You could not perform concatenation with strings nga dili string tanan. Okay, so it should be that this should be string, this should be string, this should be string pod para ma-concatenate siya. Again, concatenation refers to how we stitch up strings into one string. Okay, so di siya pwede ani. Okay, so one solution is you will cast, di ba? Marag naka-discuss na matag casting. Okay? How to cast? Simply, we are going to, in this case, since we are going to convert this x, y, and sum to a string, so, himuan lang na ito na og, we are going to use this function str, kana, str, so we'll be discussing more of casting later. So take note of the parentheses, dapat pares siya. You notice wala siya na, okay, wala siya na pares katong pag light more na i-delete ni. Okay, so just I think most IDE and even here in our interpreter na siya more visual indicator kung asa ang pares. Okay, so kanang parentheses pares na diha, kani pares na, okay, didto. Okay, so let's try this. We execute. Okay, so sige to see, nawala ng error. Okay, the sum of 1 and 2 is 3. So if you're going to do this, okay, let's say the difference is x minus y. So the difference of x and y is, of course, we're going to use difference there. Okay, ito na lang kumplituhan. So the product of x and y is, so product is equal to x asterisk y. Product of and y is, that should be product. Then let's say we have quotient x divided by y. The quotient of is quotient. Let's try power. Okay, the power is x. The power of x raised, now let's just change this to raised. Okay, going to write here power. So let's try and execute. Okay, so I think nawala the product. We still haven't written the quotient. Okay, so the quotient of is quotient. Okay, so as if you observe, okay, during our my demonstration of the same problem or the same program in Java, okay, we still need to cast, di ba, atong quotient, atong numbers quotient. Okay, here Python is much kinder in a way that since it gets to check that the result of this is a float, then the data type of this would be a float. Okay, so that is why float na pod iyahang value diha. Okay, so this again is already a working program in Python. Okay, now if you're working on your local, okay, local computer, okay, when you're going to save this, how you're going to save this is you need to have an extension .py. Okay, so you could save this, save to local file. Okay, so you could save this as your, let's say, calculator .py. Okay, siguro I'll be showing another video demonstrating this in a locally installed nga Python program. Okay, para dili pod mo matingala kung unsaon ni pag-program since pagpadagan, since here in our online compiler, okay, automatic naman i-planar nato, but sa to ang local naman tayo murag additional steps, okay, in which you need to do so that mapadagan ninyo inyong program. Okay, but what I'm focusing here is the logic and the actual code for your program. Okay, so I think that's easy enough for you to understand. Okay, kana remainder, we still haven't used remainder, so let's try remainder. So remainder or remainder na lang. Remainder is equals to x percent y. Let's change this to 4 and 5 para mas takod ako nga number. Okay, then going to copy this here, the remainder the remainder and is remainder. Okay, so I think sakto ni sila nga computation. So unsa pa man. Okay, divisions, we have demonstrated all of this. Order of evaluation, again we have this what we call operator precedence. Okay, so let's say kani, what is the first operation here? Okay, ang first aning operation is, ang pinakataas aning order actually is ang power. So iyahan himuon una. After which, unsay sunod? Kani. Okay. Oh, kani, then kani. Okay. Then, after that, left to right na dayon. Okay. So, that is actually presented here. So, highest precedence rule to lowest precedence rule. Okay. So, this is ordered according to how it is first evaluated. Okay, parenthesis, evaluation, expressions between parentheses is always evaluated first. After that, ang exponentiation. After that, kaning multiplication, division, and remainder. Then, addition and subtraction. Then, left to right na dayon. Okay. So, kani. Okay. So, ang pinakauna ani, given this, okay, statement here. Okay, pinakauna is kaning 2 to the power of 3. Muna unahon. Okay, after that, whatever the result of this, the result of this is 8. Okay, so this is our next expression that we're going to evaluate. So, since multiplication, okay, division and multiplication, parehas raman na sila. Okay, so this could be evaluated first, then ani. Okay, so if parehas na sila og level, okay, then you apply left to right. Okay, so since parehas na sila level and this is far left than this, okay, or mas una ni siya ma-encounter if we are going to read left to right, so yan ang himuon, kani, then ultimately we have 11. Okay, so if we're going to perform this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we're going to, let's say, say x is equal to 1 plus 2 power 3 divided by 4 times divided by 4 times 5. Okay, then print x. So let's say we are going to, di lang na ito na-erase, okay? Let's just leave it there. So sige to see, kaning 11 dere, mo na ang result dira. Okay? So remember the rules, top to bottom. When writing code, use parentheses. When writing code, keep mathematical expressions simple enough that they are easy to understand. Break long series of mathematical operation up to make them more clear. So type, mo to kung gikuan kanina, okay? In Python, okay, di ba natay casting gihimo since we are concerned with the type or the data type. Okay, type, data type, parehas na dire. So in Python, variables, literals, and constants have a type. So Python knows the difference between an integer, number, and a string. So you have seen that kanina. So for example, plus means addition if something is a number. Okay, so if you're going to perform int number plus number, addition na siya. But if we're going to perform string plus string, concatenation na siya. Okay, so concatenate means to put together. So here, DDD, this variable, is equals to 1 plus 4. If you're going to print this variable, it will be the result of this operation. Whereas if you're going to perform hello, okay, the word hello enclosed in a string, okay, plus another string. Again, if you want to use that as a string literal, okay, you need to use quotation, single or double quotes. Okay, so sige to see if you're going to print this variable, so ihaning giuban hello there. So type matters. So Python knows what type everything is. Some operations are prohibited. So as what you have seen kanina, you could not perform atong gihimo nga, okay, the sum of plus x plus another string, dili pwede kay iyang pagsabot ana, iyang pagtan-aw ana is, okay, you are trying to perform a concatenation from a string with a non-string value, which di siya mosagot as you have seen earlier. Okay, so we can ask Python what type something is by using the type function. If you are unsure, okay, let's say taas na kayong program ninyo and nahitabo nga na yung error nga yung ato and you want to know unsa na siya nga type, you could make use of this type function. Okay, so if we're going to use, let's say, print type x, okay, iyan na ipakita kung unsa ang type. So class float. Okay, so float na siya nga type. So instead of printing the value of x here, since you are using this function type, okay, iyan ipakita kung unsa na nga type. Okay, so if you perform, let's say, a casting, okay, so str, if you force that to str, what will happen is, okay, mahimo po na siya str. Okay, but here what we are doing is just to know, okay, what type that is. This is helpful kay, di ba, even though we no longer need to declare that, since Python is again somewhat capable of identifying whatever the type is being stored based on the value nga gibutang sa iya. Okay, you get to know what type it is really if you're going to use this function. Okay, so several type of numbers, so integers and floating point. Okay, essentially maora na ato ang hunahunahon. This could be negative. Okay, ang main difference sa ilaha is integers, these are whole numbers, and floating points or floats, these are decimal parts. So conversion, okay, so if we have made a conversion kanina nga gihimo nato is ang int, gihimo nato string para ma-concatenate, we could also force an integer to be a float. Okay, so let's try this. So atoan na lang ni erase, we'll erase this na lang. Okay, okay, so let's say print float. What happened here is, okay, float 99 here, okay, as this is a whole number, di ba? So 99, what will happen is the same with Java, in which, okay, if you're going to perform float and float, okay, it will result to a float number. Okay, I hope you still remember that. Okay, katong I think that's more casting. Okay, type conversion or type casting, mapupunta siya nga topic. Okay, so here you'll notice the result is 199, but since 1 is float, then the result will have a decimal value, even if technically speaking wala na siya decimal nga value, but ang ihang format is in decimal. Okay, so here type, so mga itong game kanina, float kana. So we could force, okay, we could cast ato ang mga type by using this in numbers. Okay, we could use int and float. Okay, so let's say we have kana, if you're going to write z is equals to float, okay, x plus y, so print z, so we'll have 9. Okay, 9.0, I mean. Okay, so if ato aning walaon, it will only print out whole number 9. Okay, sana diha. Now what will happen if, let's say, we are going to make this a string. Okay? So will this cause an error? Okay? Of course, this will cause an error since now, okay, you are trying to, again, katong error na po na to kanina earlier nga, you are trying to concatenate a string to an integer, mag-error na siya. But what will happen if, sir, if ato na himuon nga str pod, okay? Now, this will perform concatenation, so it will treat 4 and 5 as string, okay? Meaning, dili na siya numeric in value, okay? Iyan na lang isumpay. Iyan na lang isumpay. So, if you get to see, you will have 45 there. Kaya ihara nang gisumpay ang value sa the string value 4 and string value 5, okay? By using this addition plus symbol as our concatenator. Integer division. So, integer division produces a floating point result. Okay? So, you have noticed this kanina. Okay, you no longer need to cast 1 or 2 of our divisor and our dividend. Okay? Dili na kinahanglan. So string conversion. So atong gihimo kanina, that was already a string conversion. So you can also use int and float to convert between strings and integers. So this is possible if, okay, ang data could be used as a value or a numeric value once it is being converted. What I mean by this is ingani. Oops. Okay. So let's say we have x plus y, but we added here double quotes. Okay, so you are treating this, since na ay double quotes ana, so Python will detect this as a string, not an integer. So if ito anang himuon, okay, it will perform, ito i-change ang kuan ha, let's change our value here para makita na to ang changes dere. So if we're going to press execute, so 68, iha nang gisumpay ang 6 and 8. So but if you're going to write int here, then what will happen is, okay, iyahan nang i-perform successfully kay if you are going to convert this, let's say inyuhan ng tanggalan, what will happen really here is iyahan nang gitanggal, okay, it convert this to, it try and convert it to an integer. So iyahan gi-perform ang addition. Okay? So kana. So what if, let's say, himuon na to ni og 8 nga word? Will this do? Okay? If you're going to do this, it will cause an error kay though okay ni siya, okay? But pag abot dere, okay, ang iyang treatment ana dili man na, di ba, dili man ta makaingon nga ang computer makaingon nga isultian na siya 8. Okay? Dili na siya kabalo if is it a string or is it a number unless you write that. Okay? That is why, mahitabo dere, invalid literal int with a base 10, so 8. So in short, wala niya na convert successfully, and what happened here is, okay, it resulted an error. Okay? So pwede gihapon ang number ma-convert to string as long as, okay, if you get to omit this if you get to omit this quotations, okay, na ay value, na numeric value. Okay? So what if ato ang tanggalon dere? Okay? Let's say int na gani siya, ato pag yung i-convert og int na pod. Okay? So there's no error here, okay? So ihara nang gidawat. But if you do this, okay, redundant na siya nga step, okay, you should omit that. Okay? So you should remove this int here. So how about okay, I think more na. Okay? Kani. Here in this example, gihimo na to kanina, so na siya giingon nga error similar to what we have seen earlier. User input. Okay? So how do we accept user input, or how do we want the computer to ask, okay, from a user, or a response from a user? Okay? Very simply, you write this statement here. Okay, the variable that you're going to store the result of the entry of this statement here. Input, okay, parenthesis, inside the parenthesis is katong murag question niya. Okay? Sa Java medyo separate, di ba? Daghan tag steps nga gihimo sa Java, di ba? Mag-import pa ta o class para sa scanner. We are going to instantiate it. Ang ato ang prompt, we still need to write that as a print line. Then the actual scanner object ay din sa ubos. But here, usa na ka statement. So let's say the value of x will be determined by asking a user for a value. Okay, x is equals to, how do we do that? Input, then din ang prompt. Okay, enter value for x. Okay, nga na. Then same to for y, input. So, enter value for y. So, once we have that value, so pwede na ito ni magamit na yon. Now, depende, again, similar to how we have discussed earlier, depende kung unsay gibutang dere ang data type matter. Okay, or it will identify the type based on what you have entered here. Okay, so what I mean by that, so let's say we are going to perform z is equals to x plus y, then we're going to print, okay, the result is, okay, the sum, the sum, ayan, keep it simple lang sa, the result is, okay, plus z, okay, but then again, okay, diba? We need to convert this to string. Diba? Kung gusto na to na i-concatenate niya, kaya we will get the error earlier. Okay? So, I will show you. But before you press execute, if you're using this JDoodle, you click on this interactive button first. Kaya dili niya na i-allow nga na user input if wala ni siya na enable sa ato ang JDoodle. Okay? So, you click that. Saka na. Pwede po na to ni we cannot really adjust that. Saka na. So let's see ha. Okay, if you're going to press execute. Okay, as you get to see, nag-watch our user input. So let's say we add here 7. Okay, so wala space, no? So we will add that later. Once you press enter, proceed na po sa next. Enter value of y, let's say 8. So expect we will see the result is 15. Kaya ito man i-add. 8 plus 7 is 15. So, what will happen here is okay. So what happened here is it treats our value as string. Okay? I think it what happened is during a part, let's try, I'm trying to let's troubleshoot this. Okay, nga wala man tay gihimo nga kuan nga string, okay, all seems right. If we're going to change it to string, okay, let's see if ma-correct ni siya. Okay, so 7 plus 8. Let's stop that. Okay, so mag-error ni siya. Okay, execute. Ang problem lang ani sa JDoodle is since it's online, kay medyo mas hinay gid siya in processing compared sa locally installed nga Python nga program or interpreter. 7. So let's wait for that to render the second statement. 8. Okay, so still we have this problem here nga ihang gina-treat nga string. Okay? So sayop ta akong assumption kanina. But okay, what you can do in this case is, okay, let's try to revert kana. Okay? let's say we are going to convert this to a, let's say, integer. Okay, we could actually perform casting here. Pwede dire, okay? We could cast it here. Pwede ni siya. We are forcing, di ba? Ang putong problema is, murag iya man gina-treat nga string. Okay? So, let's try this. So, we're going to execute. Enter value of x. Ha? Ito saan ang stop. Ito saan yung butang space dire. Para na ay di kayo siya dikit. So, execute. 7. 8. Okay, so na po error. Okay? Lahi na po ng error. So, actually what happened here is, iyahan na ning gitreat nga ang z, okay? Iyahan na ning gitreat nga integer. Okay? But, kato kung giingon kanina, originally nga, kung giingon kanina nga, this would cause an error kay, okay, you are trying to concatenate, okay, your string to an int. So, to do that, to solve that, is ato na po ning i-convert. So, kana. So, we're going to execute that. So, 7, 8. Okay, so the result is 15. Sakto na. Okay? So, ato ang ikuha na, medyo sinalibog mo. But if you are tentative enough, okay, you might get the idea. So, ang hitabo is, okay, by default, if you're going to use this statement, kaning input lang, okay, iyahan na siyang, okay, it would treated as string. Okay? So, that is why, katong kanina, gihimo nato, nasumpay sa 7, nahimo siya 7 and 8, and wa siya nag-error dari kay, diri pa lang daan, string na iyang treatment. Okay? So, what we have done is we convert that, or we cast that to another data type. So, you could actually do that here. Okay? So, pwede na ito na himuon dira. Parehas na sila. So, we have forced our values to be integer here. Okay? Again, this is temporary. Okay? Imo nang gi-cast temporarily dire. But strictly speaking, ang x diha is still string, but in this part of your code, gi-cast lang nimo na siya temporarily to an integer. Okay? So kana. So since int and int, okay, you are performing a valid operation here, addition operation, then this would be int na dayon. Okay? And there kanina ingani man to siya. Since you are using an addition, our plus operator between a string and an int, sa diri pa lang ako na wala pa ta nag-cast, okay? It will cause an error. Nga dili pwede ang concatenation between string to a non-string value. So to solve that, we cast that to our string. Okay? So I hope nakuha ra ninyo ang program. Okay? So if we try this again, di ba gi-change na to dire ang ato ang casting instead dire. So let's see if mugana na siya. Let's say 10, 11. So the result is 21. So sakto na. Sakto gyapon. Okay? So that is user input. Okay? If you want nga, let's say float pud siya, okay? Pwede gyapon. Okay? You could perform float and int, no problem. What will happen is it will convert the result to a float. Okay? So let's say unsa may float nga value, let's say 10.5 plus 11. So 21.5. But what will happen if, okay, ang ato ang y, we're going to enter, it will not control you on how you type. Okay? Kung sa inyo ibutang diha, iyag yun ang ibutang diha. Okay? So, let's say, we're going to value sa to ang float as tong x is 10.5. Okay, what if atong ibutang pud nga value sa y is, let's say, 11.25. Okay? Sa result. So naay error. It causes an error, invalid literal for int 11.5. Nahitabo dari is dili na pwede nga value for that data type kay you are forcing that to be an integer value, but ang inyong gibutang is 11.25, so dili niya na i-disregard ang 0.25. It will cause an error telling you that you need to have an integer value once you use this int cast here. Okay? So mao na ang problema. So if you want, you need to change this to float. Okay? So para ang resulta na 10.5 plus 11.25, so 21.75. Sakto na. So what if magbutang ko og string? Okay? I'm going to execute that again. Let's say 1. Okay? Plus 2. Okay? So again, it will cause an error. Okay? You could not convert string to a float. Okay? Ang error immediately ning effect na diha. Okay? So kana. Next is converting user input. So mao na to. I will shown that. So comments in Python. Okay? Again, comments are used for documentation, or you could temporarily turn off a line of code. Okay? Or describe what's going to happen in a sequence of code. Okay? So you could use, there are actually two ways of writing a comment. Okay? One is using the number sign. The other is using a triple single quote. Okay? But we'll use number sign here. Or first. So kana. So you could write something number sign user input. Okay? Then you could have number sign addition. Then you could have displaying of result. Okay? Most IDE, okay, even JDoodle here has color coding mampod, so it's very it's easy to spot kung unsa ang comment or dili. Okay, so we're going to execute this. Essentially it performs the same program earlier. Okay, since again comments are not rendered in your program. Okay, this will not cause an error kay float could easily contain integer values, but not the way around, in which integer could contain float values. Mao to mag-error kanina. Okay? Ang quotation, okay? 'Di ba, if you want to, let's say, multiple lines of comment, okay? Medyo kapoy man good nga let's say name Romer, ayan. O pasok. Okay, number sign na pud ta. Okay? This is one way of doing it. So BSIT, so nga na. Then let's say year, first year. Okay, you can do this, or pwede po nga tulo ka tulo ka single quotes. Okay, tanadaan. Then in between that, okay, muna dayon ang name. Okay, course. So this is also treated as a comment in Python. Then year, level. So mas dali siya if daghan inyo i-type, okay? Or mas convenient siya. kana. So we're going to execute this. Okay, so parehas sa gihapon. Okay, let's say 50.5 and 70. So kana 120.5. Okay, so that's it for our overview sa to ang Python. Okay, sa atong basic atong we have discussed type, we have shown you reserved words, variables, operators, operator precedence, integer division, conversion, user input, and comments using pound, and atong single quotes. Okay, so if you have questions with this, you can post on the equivalent post in our classroom, or you could comment sa to sa YouTube nga comment section where this would be uploaded. And kana. Okay, so next video we will dive into our official topic, our official first topic sa to ang course. Okay, so I believe that is comparison operators and logical operators, or logical statements, or essentially the decision making, how to create a program which could decide. Okay, so I will end my lecture here. So hopefully na understand rani nakasabot ra mo. Again, if you have questions, you post that in our comment section. Okay, sa atong classroom o sa atong YouTube, or I think di pa ko kahimo og group chat karon, but kana na sa comment section. And ideally you could also perform, you augment your research, okay, research sa YouTube, okay, some topics, since again Python is very popular and easy to learn, so daghan na siya nga resource sa to ang internet. Okay, so kana lang, then see you next video.